Welcome. This is Kingdom Talk, coming to you from Frankfurt, Germany. I'm your host, Tobias Riemenschneider, but you don't have to remember my name because it will soon be forgotten. I am pastor of Evangelical Reformed Baptist Church in Frankfurt, Germany, and this is my first show, and it is also my first show in English, a foreign language. So how did this come about? Well, a few weeks ago, I was walking through the woods and thought to myself, well, it would be nice to have a platform in America to be able to address certain things. But I don't have a platform. And 2 days later, the brothers from Eschatology Matters approached me and offered me my own show on their platform, on their channel. I thought, well, it seems God has opened a door, so let's go through it and do this show. Again, my first show in a foreign language, so bear with me, have patience with me. I'm sure I will improve, but we have to start now. And I was wondering what would be a good topic for the first episode of my own show. What should I be talking about? And well, I didn't have the luxury to actually choose an own topic because one topic was forced on me. And I'm not really happy about that, but that's how it is. So, a few weeks ago, Pastor Joel Webbon of Right Response Ministries published a video against me. And I didn't even listen to that until a few days ago. But I didn't even want to know what he had said. But several pastors, well-known pastors, you would know their names, they approached me and they told me, Tobias, you have to respond. He slandered you so viciously. He lied about you. You need to respond. And I was still thinking, I don't know, because, well, to be honest, I don't care. Let him slander me. I've been slandered so much before, and it was bothering me a lot in the beginning. But by God's grace, I really don't care too much anymore. Yeah, let man slander me. But I wanted to take the advice of those good, wise men. And also, this is about much more than just about my reputation. If it was just about my reputation, I wouldn't do this video. But this is about much more. This is about a very dangerous and evil development in the church, even within the Reformed Church, that is creeping into more and more churches, local churches. And this needs to be addressed. And sadly, one of the key figures, the key proponents of this dangerous development is Pastor Joel Webbon and some others. And I guess some of them will jump at me now, but I'm not afraid of saying what needs to be said. And again, you can attack me, you can slander me, I don't care too much, because I am a slave of Christ. And I don't care what you say about me. I want the truth to be proclaimed. I want the church to be kept pure from evil and dangerous developments. And especially, I want to protect sheep so they're not deceived by this. Okay, but what is this all about? Well, we will listen to the podcast that Joel did, and we will hear his own words, and then I will stop and react to this, give you my thoughts, give you my view, and then you can yourself decide where you land on this. But be remembered, Proverbs 18:17, you all know this one. The one who states his case first seems right. Joel stated his case first. He seems right. But he only seems right until the other comes and examines him. So hear me out. I'm coming to examine him. He seems right until now. And now you will be able to examine this together with me and see what's actually true. So let's jump in. We will first listen to the beginning of the video and see what this video, Joel did, what this video is all about. So let's see.
So a member in my church shared a meme about the Holocaust. And, as you may have seen online, some notable pastors publicly put some pressure on him, as well as me, to actually put him under church discipline.
Okay, so that is the topic of this entire show. A member of Joel's church shared a meme about the Holocaust, and several notable pastors, we can name them, Doug Wilson and James White, they put pressure on this man and on Joel as his pastor to put this man under church discipline. Well, that never happened. That's not true. So this is the entire premise of this episode, that we wanted to force him publicly, put pressure on him, force him to put this man under church discipline. And I tell you, that's not what I said. That's not what Doug said. James said something in this direction, but it wasn't even really directed to Joel. And I agree completely with James, and we'll see that later on. But this is the entire premise. Our goal was that Joel has to put this man under church discipline. And just to be sure that we're not misunderstanding anything, let's see this again.
Yeah, as you said, Joel, the topic this week is a meme or a controversial view on the Holocaust or any other historical event, really, for that matter. I mean, barring the historical events in the Bible, like the birth and death and resurrection of Christ.
Right.
Are those things that warrant church discipline?
Right.
Are those things that warrant even a sort of censorship or a sort of cancellation by Christians? Are we punching right? Is this a legitimate thing to be concerned about? And certainly, does it rise to the level of an offense that we would excommunicate someone or bar them from the table or something like that? So,
right.
Okay, again, that is the topic of this episode. Is a meme or a controversial view on the Holocaust, does that warrant church discipline and even excommunication? And the answer is no, it doesn't. And no one ever said that. But that is the premise of this show, that those pastors, and especially I, that this is what we want. And I can tell you right away, that's not what we want. I don't think that warrants church discipline. I think something needs to be added to that until we finally arrive at church discipline. And I will show you that much, really, this is about much more than just the Holocaust meme. But again, no, this would not warrant church discipline. And I never requested that Joel put him under church discipline or excommunicates him. It's just not the case. So the entire premise of this episode is false. It's a lie. It's a false accusation from the beginning. And I want you to see something else, because where this is going, just listen to this.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
and well, I would just say, like, as a little bit of a spoiler alert here, but this individual, just to put everybody at ease, maybe not everybody, much to the chagrin potentially of some, but to put, I think, most reasonable thinking people at ease, this member is still a member.
Okay, so now Joel is framing everyone, right at the beginning of this video, he's framing everyone who disagrees with him as someone who does not think reasonably. And I've seen this so many times with Joel. I believe it is very arrogant to say, if you see things differently, then you're just not thinking, right? You are not reasonable. You're crazy. And he will harp on this several times, that I'm crazy, that I lost my mind, and so on and so forth. So if you don't agree with him, you don't think reasonably. And again, if the situation as Joel frames it to be, if that was true, if that was actually the truth, well, then I would agree. Again, you shouldn't excommunicate someone just because of a meme he shared. That might be unreasonable, but this is not what this is about. So let's continue and look at the next excerpt here.
But the individual that we're going to discuss today, we're not going to name them because we don't want, because here's the deal, and this is why Christians, I wish that Christians would be more careful. This is a good Christian man. I don't believe that he is in impenitent sin. There have been some views that I would disagree with and some initial concerns that I had, but here's a crazy thought, just throw it out there. But when I had some initial concerns, what I decided to do was sit down and have a conversation with him. Yeah. And actually
not with somebody else.
Not with somebody else, but with him. I didn't write a blog about it. I didn't do a podcast about it. I sat down privately with him and I asked him questions.
Right.
Okay, so I want you to notice one thing. The name of this brother has never been mentioned. Not by Joel now. He still protects his name, nor by anyone else. Everything was on an anonymous basis. The name of this brother, his identity was never revealed. Not by us, not by me or Doug or James, and not by Joel. That is important to understand because we will later see why this is important. And then Joel is saying, if there is something going on, I actually sit down. I actually talk to this guy, and I don't go and talk to others and write blogs about it and do podcasts about it. Well, of course, that's what you do, and that's what I did. Starting in February 24, I started admonishing this brother, talking to that brother. Well, actually, it started talking to him about this in December 23. We started talking about this. No one just started talking to others. Never talked to this poor guy. Just started talking to others and went on the internet and did podcasts and blogs. That's not how it happened. I talked to him for a month, for almost a year. And again, Joel is confusing categories. He's talking about a case of church discipline. Well, you first talk to this man. Sure. But this was never about church discipline. This was never about this individual, about this man. This is about something much bigger. This is about to show what mindset is prevalent in churches like Joel Webbon's. This is just one example to show what is going on. Behind the scenes, I believe many of you have never heard of that. Many probably did, especially if you're on X, if you're on Twitter and so on. You will have noticed this. But this is something much bigger. It's not about this individual. It's not about church discipline for this individual. And of course, I talk to him because I do care. I do care about him. I'm his former pastor. I talk to him a lot. But this is not what this is about. So let's continue.
Because it is absolutely, I don't want to be rude here, but I think it's the accurate way to frame it. It would be stupid, absolutely stupid and ridiculous, and worse than that, I believe, by a biblical parameter, abusive. It would be pastoral abuse to put this young man under church discipline.
All right, so Joel says it would be stupid and it would be pastoral abuse to put this man under church discipline. Well, if it was just for a meme he shared, sure. I agree. I mean, it's much more than that, but we talk about this later. My problem here is, and he will say that very, very directly later on, this is how he talks about me, right? So he is slandering me, saying, well, I am stupid. I am abusive because I want this man to be put under church discipline. Again, I never said that. That's not what this is about. And I don't think you should make these accusations against a pastor, calling him stupid and abusive, if all of this is just based on lies. So let's continue with this part of the video here.
But the question is, well, how did it get to all these guys? I think what people assumed, and this is one of the details that is absolutely imperative for people to know, and because if you've been watching this story, you read Doug's blog or you listened to the particular Dividing Line episode with James White, I would assume that you think that there was a member of a Reformed church, and now you know that was my church, that shared this meme publicly.
Okay, so everyone assumes this was shared publicly. I don't know what everyone assumes. That's not what I said. I don't think that Doug or James said that. I could be wrong. But again, this is just not what it is about. Well, Joel wants to make it about this. Well, yeah, if it had been shared publicly, well, that's not our problem. The problem is not, was it shared publicly or in a smaller circle? The problem is what this meme actually tells you about not just the mindset of this young man, but of the mindset that is prevalent in Joel's church. And I will show you that in a while. But let's first continue. And one other thing. Joel says, well, this is my church. So not only did we never tell anyone the name of this particular brother, but we also even never gave the name of the church. So it was completely anonymous. And this is important because Joel wants to make this about something, about trust and abusing the trust someone has in his former pastor and so on. But let's continue first.
Right? I guarantee
Right.
all of you watching right now,
Right.
that's what you assume. You assume he shared it on X, right? Or he shared it on Instagram or whatever. Well, Instagram would probably take it down, but X,
Yeah.
he shared it on X and it got retweeted by Nick Fuentes, and it got millions of views. And turns out, this insidious, Jew hatred and Nazi infatuation is actually, the source of it comes from a Reformed church of
Right.
all places. And they're, deep within our ranks, and there's rot in our bones. And this is a really serious,
I mean, what Joel is admitting here, that if you see this meme, it wasn't shared and with millions of people. But if it was, and you saw this meme, you could come to the conclusion, well, all this Nazi stuff coming from a Reformed church, this is really rotten in the bones. So, I mean, he is admitting to that this would have been the probable reaction if this was shared publicly, if millions viewed it. That would be what people would think about this. Okay?
Here's the actual truth, right? Sometimes it's helpful to have things like truth. Okay.
Yes. Sometimes it's helpful to have things like truth.
Okay, so here's the actual truth. The meme was never publicly shared by this
Right.
individual in our church.
Right.
He texted it, not shared it on social
Right.
media. He texted it privately to a text thread of 40 people. Nope, two people.
Yeah.
And one of these people being another man in our church, a friend of his, and they both laughed because they both hold the same historical view. And that was the end of it. But the other person, and this is where he messed up, is he texted it to his former pastor. And so you might be wondering, well, if
So, again, Joel wants to make this all about how many people this was shared with or posted and saw this. It has nothing to do with this. Nothing. It doesn't matter how many people saw this. What is disturbing is that such a meme is, he admitted that he also shared it with another brother from Joel's church, and they laughed about it. And that's where the problem is. We will look at that meme shortly. And you can tell me if you think, well, that's really funny. We should laugh about that. That's the issue. This brother, and he is not alone, they have a sinful attitude towards the Holocaust, towards the Jews especially. And that is the issue. The issue is not how this individual, with how many people he shared it. He got it also from somewhere. So it must have been shared with him as well. So it seemed this is circulating. I don't know how many people saw this. But again, this has nothing to do with this. It's completely irrelevant. But Joel wants to make it all about this. How many people actually saw it? Oh, only 2. So it's not a problem. It's not a problem because of the number of people that saw this. It had nothing to do with this. But let's continue.
And so you might be wondering, well, if it was private, how does this show
Right.
up in Blog and Mablog and the dividing line and all? How does everybody know about this,
Yeah.
Joel? That doesn't make any sense. Well, because he texted to his former pastor, where he was a member in good standing for about a decade, in personal personal friends with
Yep.
the pastor there.
Yep.
And he texted to his former pastor because he thought that they were friends, and because, not just randomly out of the blue, like, haha, I found something funny, but he texted to him because he had been talking with his former pastor about how his views were particularly changing on this issue of World War II history, and that he was starting to have some serious doubts and questions about what actually happened in Germany in the 1940s, and what really happened with the Jews and the Bolsheviks and all these different factors that were going on, and in Poland, how many prisoners of war were actually taken.
Let's stop here. So, again, Joel is framing this. He wants to control the narrative. Well, he was a member of this pastor's church for a decade. Well, I think it was 6 years. Okay. And he was a personal friend of the pastor. So, you know what he's getting at? Well, you share something with someone who you think is your friend. You can think you can trust him, and then he betrays you, turns around and talks about this meme to others. This is a betrayal of trust, right? Well, I was not his personal friend. At least not any less or more than I am with anyone else from my church. We never sat down together and had a beer or something like that. I was a friend to him as I am a friend to every of my sheep. So there is not this extremely personal relationship. But again, it doesn't matter. Because you know what? Because I am his friend, even more because I was his pastor, because I really care for him. I care for his soul. That's why I care about what he's getting into. And, I think at this point, it might be good to actually let you know what happened. Because, Joel says, well, he just had some questions about the Holocaust and so on. No, that is not what happened. So let me explain to you what exactly happened. And, I was thorough. I went through everything. Through all the messages, voice messages, text messages. And I can prove all of this. So if anyone wants to contest this, I got proof. I got the recordings. I got the text messages, the voice messages. Some of them are in German, but I'm happy to have them translated by a certified translator. So let me explain to you what happened. And again, I can prove all of this. It started in December 23. So this brother had been a member of my church for about 6 years. Not a decade, but about 6 years. And then he moved to America. First to Atlanta, and then later to Texas to join Joel's church. And shortly after that, in December 23, he started sending me strange messages. And I wanted to understand that he never asked questions. Because that's what these guys always say. Oh, they're just some young man asking some questions. So how can you be so rude to them? I have never heard anyone asking any questions. No, they are not asking questions. They know. They know, and they want to convince you. Because you really have to understand this. Yeah. So let me tell you, and these are quotes from this brother, what he said to me in December 23, starting in December 23. And tell me if these are questions. He said, I am completely convinced that the Holocaust didn't happen. Completely convinced. He told me he will no longer compare abortion to what the Nazis did because he is convinced the Nazis didn't do anything like that. So that's how it started. And then he sent me, websites where you can read all these conspiracy theories about Auschwitz and so on and so forth. So he wanted to convince me that his new conviction was really right, was really important, and I need to see that as well. No questions asked. Completely convinced that the Holocaust didn't happen. Then he sent me a video of Adolf Hitler. And he said, well, every Christian needs to agree with Hitler, at least on what he says in this video. I said, okay, let's listen to it. So I listened to this video, and I thought, I absolutely don't agree. Because even though Hitler might have seen some dangerous developments in his time and addressed those, his entire worldview is wrong. He opposed things because of his Germanness. So this is not German, so we have to oppose it. Well, this is an entirely different worldview from a Christian worldview. If I oppose anything, I do it because of Christ, because he is king, because of the Bible, because his word tells me what's right and wrong and what I need to oppose. That was not the worldview of Hitler. His worldview was an anti-Christian, a demonic worldview. I'm sorry. That put Germans, Aryans, as at the top race, the Lord's race, as they called it, and everyone below them. So I absolutely did not agree with this Hitler video. But he thinks I need to agree. Every Christian needs to agree. And then he said, well, Hitler is like Trump today. Okay, well, I hope not. I want to think better of Trump. He continued to say, a good government is not measured by how it treats Jews, but Christians. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter how the Nazis treated Jews. That's not how you determine whether the Nazi regime was a good government. No, you have to look at how they treated Christians. Well, of course, they didn't treat Christians well. I mean, I might go into that in one of the next episodes to show how this is all wrong. So where does this brother got this from? Well, mainly from a podcast called Stone Choir. They did a 3 hours documentary with wanting to prove that the Holocaust never happened and the Nazis were actually good guys just defending themselves. Well, I listened to the 3-hour podcast. It is nothing else than Nazi propaganda. It's full of lies. It's full of falsehood. And those two guys doing this podcast, especially Corey Mailer, he is an evil man. He is satanic. He is a true racist. He has things on his X account. I don't even want to say this. Let me just tell you one thing, because this brother from Joel's church quoted Corey Mailer saying, well, interracial kids are like feces. I don't know if you think, well, that's no problem. He's fine. He's good. I don't think so. And what else did this brother tell me? Well, there is a global Jewish conspiracy behind everything evil, LGBTQ, the porn industry, COVID, all of that. It's the Jews behind everything. The global Jewish conspiracy. The Jews are the deep state. Another quote by this brother. And then it got really ugly. It's already ugly. But he said things like, all Jews deserve the concentration camps because they are parasites. It's hard for me to even say these things, to even repeat that, because it is so evil. And Joel sits here and says, oh, he's a good brother. And how can, that is what Joel is defending. Please understand, Joel is doing a 2 hours podcast to slander another pastor. Why? To protect this man. I hope he's still a brother. I don't know. To protect this man. The sin of this man. The Jew hatred of this man. And this man, this brother, he explicitly said, again, I can prove that. I got the recordings. He explicitly said, I am an avowed anti-Semite. Joel, if you want to contest that, feel free to do so. I have the recordings. So, and now you tell me that is not a problem. It is. It is sinful. It is full of hatred. And you have to understand one thing. This brother, and again, he's just one example. This is a movement in the church, and it's not a small movement. Stone Choir podcast, they got tens of thousands of followers. Joel Webbon, defending all of this, got more than 100,000 followers. This is not a small movement. And it will probably soon be in your church if it's not there already. this brother also told me things about Joel Webbon that Joel Webbon had said. And I will not bring them forth. I will not talk about this because I do not have 2 or 3 witnesses that I would need in order to bring forth an accusation against a pastor. Well, Joel Webbon might not care, but I care about the Bible, so I will not say that. But one thing I can say, this brother told me, all this new thinking, all this, saying that he is an avowed anti-Semite. He says this is due to the influence of Joel Webbon and his church. Again, tell me there's not a problem. Well, let's continue in our timeline, okay? This all happened basically in December and leading up to February 24. So what happened in February 24? Well, I started admonishing this brother, and very clearly so. So I talked to him, right? And I admonished him. And I contacted Joel, because I do respect the pastor, that he is the new pastor of this young man. So I contacted him as well. You want to know what Joel said? Again, I have proof for everything. Joel said, well, yeah, this brother, he actually confessed to Joel that he has sinful, racist, and anti-Semitic thoughts, and that he has always been prone to extremism. Did you get that from what Joel said? No, he's just a good brother, right? Well, I think there are some problems. Joel knows this. That's what he told me. Joel also said, well, this brother, he's going too far. He's too extreme. He believes everything is a conspiracy, and he's potentially dangerous. That's what Joel told me in February 24. And I thought, well, okay, maybe I can be at ease. Maybe he is in good hands. Maybe he has a good pastor who actually cares and will address this. But you can listen to Joel now. I'm not sure if he completely changed his mind on this, or if he was lying to me, if he's lying now, but something doesn't really mesh it up, right? So, and then Joel said, again in February 24, in a voice message, I'm not going to excommunicate him immediately like the Gospel Coalition would. This is the first time excommunication was brought up. And it was brought up not by me, but by Joel. So somehow he thinks, in his mind, this is somehow connected to excommunication. But I didn't bring that up. Joel did. And what was my response? And I got that on a recording as well. What was my response? I told him, I don't believe that everything in Nazi Germany was just black and white. I mean, my grandparents lived in that time. I don't think it's just black and white. I don't think they were just all evil. But, and I told him, racism or anti-Semitism, well, of course, that's not the unforgivable sin. And no, this does not warrant immediate excommunication. I agreed with him. This is not a reason for excommunication. But I also told Joel, this brother needs to repent because it is sinful. He needs to repent. He needs to stop listening to Stone Choir podcast because that's where I got much of that from. And by the way, Stone Choir podcast, he's not the only one listening to that in Joel's church. And I admonished Joel that, to use equal weights and measures. He's very quickly punching to the left, but you also have to punch to the right. Because we are not about left and right. We are Christians. We are about the Bible. So my standard for what's right and wrong, my standard for what's sinful, for where I, as a pastor, have to do something, is not left or right. It is the Bible. And if you deviate from the Bible, if you start sinning, if that's hatred against Jews or against white people or whatsoever, I need to address it as a pastor, not by immediate excommunication, but I need to address this. And I admonished Joel, use equal weights and measures, please. Okay. So then for a few months, nothing more happened. But then in September 24, rather recently, we had and Joel is also talking about this later, we had a Zoom meeting with this brother and Joel, because we respect his pastor. And this was attended by my co-pastor Peter, myself, and two of this brother's friends, closest friends, because we are all concerned about him. And we continue to discuss these matters. And in this meeting, Joel was there. This brother said, that the Holocaust didn't happen. He doesn't believe it. And this is important. I'm not sure if you caught this. I go back to that in a moment. And that the Jews were just prisoners of war. So it's just a war measure, like in America. You got the Japanese, you fought the Japanese and you put them in some concentration camps, and that's the same thing. Well, it's not. It's absolutely not. First of all, there was no Judaic state that Germany was at war against. That's not the same situation. And you want to tell me that those mothers and children and grandmothers in the concentration camps, they were prisoners of war? I mean, many of them had lived in Germany for hundreds of years. Those are not prisoners of wars, those were Germans. So, but you see, and we will see that with Joel again. He uses the exact same terminology. What they are doing is they are basically using the rule book of the left. You have to control the narrative by framing others. They are stupid, they are abusive, they don't think reasonably. By framing yourself, well, I'm the good guy. I talk to these men, I'm protecting those poor guys. And also by changing the language. So the Jews in the concentration camps are now mere prisoners of war, right? Again, he said that all Jews deserve the concentration camps because they don't do honest work, but rob us of our money. And I challenged this brother and said, well, how can you be so certain to say something like that about an entire ethnicity? And he said, well, Paul also did that, right? In his letter to Titus, he said, well, Cretans are always liars, evil beasts, lazy gluttons. See, Paul can say that about an entire people group. I said, yeah, Paul could say that. It's in the Bible. Where's your Bible verse to say something like that? And also, but what did Paul say? Did he say, well, Cretans are always liars, evil beasts, lazy gluttons, so put them in the concentration camp? No, that's not what Paul said. He said, therefore, rebuke them sharply, that they may be sound in the faith. Well, you evangelize them. You rebuke them. You make sure that they are sound in the faith. I read nothing of concentration camps. I don't believe anyone deserves a concentration camp. I don't believe that is a biblical punishment. Okay, so Joel was there. He sat there. He listened to all of this. What was his reaction? Well, he said it himself. For the first hour, he didn't say anything. And then the only thing he really said, with regard to what this brother had said, was, well, okay, you say all Jews deserve the concentration camp. Well, maybe not women and children, right? So he was asking him a leading question. And what did this brother say? Yeah, not children. So, and again, even in that meeting, I never asked Joel to excommunicate this brother, because this is not what I want for this brother. There are two things I want. I want for this brother to get out of Joel's church, to get out of these bad influences, because this is serious. It is about his soul. Can I quote Doug Wilson, what Doug Wilson said about this meme? He doesn't know the brother. He just knew the meme. He didn't know all the rest. But just with regard to this meme, he said, that is the kind of thing that requires cold law and hot gospel. You can't fix it with sunglasses and a joke about white boy summer. The task is to keep this people from going to hell. And he said this meme is a prime example of Christless conservatism, and I agree. I want to keep this brother from going to hell. I don't want him to be excommunicated. I want him to leave Joel's church and find a good church again and get sober again and get rid of all the hatred and of all the lies and of all the deception so that he will not go to hell. Well, and again, James White, he said that this, and I don't have an exact quote here, so if I'm quoting anything wrong, please forgive me. But he says that this warrants excommunication, and that a pastor who doesn't deal with this should step down. I don't know if he was speaking directly about Joel. I don't think he was, but it was about this meme. So, and I agree. If you can share this meme and find this meme funny and do all the rest this brother did, and you don't repent, then you should be excommunicated. And a pastor is not willing to do that, he's not a fit pastor. See, it is not about sharing a meme. It is not about having, some different thoughts about historical events. It's about sinful thoughts. It's about hatred. It's about racism and anti-Semitism. And it is about being unrepentant. That is what warrants church discipline. Jesus in Matthew 18, he doesn't say, only specific sins warrant church discipline. No, hating others, that's not part of it. No. Basically, every sin can warrant church discipline, because the important thing is not just the sin, but the question whether someone repents. Because as Martin Luther said, I'm a German, I have to quote Martin Luther, right? He said in his first of his thesis, when Christ said, repent, he meant that the entire life of the Christian must be repentance. So if you don't repent of any sin, you prove yourself to not be a Christian. And of course, there are steps, right? You first talk to him, you get another witness, then you bring it to the church. But in the end, if you will not repent, then you have to be excommunicated. And a pastor who is covering up these sins and says, no, he's fine, he's good. I ask some leading questions and he's good. That's not a good pastor. But I'm already getting ahead of myself. So this is what happened. And again, this is the truth. Yes, sometimes it's helpful to have the truth. This is the truth, and I can prove it. And so, but now let's continue with this podcast. And I want to go back just a little bit, because here we hear what Joel is saying about the Jews.
How many prisoners of war were actually taken? How many of them actually died? How did they die? Was it malicious? Or was it that they died through starvation because Churchill cut off all trade, and so your own people, women and children in Germany, were starving, and when your own people are starving, then prisoners of war usually are going to get the shortest end of the stick.
Okay, so when he's talking about prisoners of war, again, he is talking about the Jews in the concentration camp. Maybe not exclusively, but he includes them. That was what we talked about in our online meeting, in our Zoom meeting. That's what this brother said. And that's what Joel is talking about, because we never talked about anyone else. We never talked about any other prisoners of war. We exclusively talked about the Jews. So when Joel is talking about prisoners of war, this is his terminology. Jews are not, they were not really treated badly. It wasn't malicious. They are just prisoners of war. And that happens in war, right? And he's always talking about, how many were there, how many died. I don't care how many died. No, don't get me wrong, I do, but that's not my point. Yes, is it even more evil to kill 1 million than 100,000? Yeah, I guess so. But killing 100,000 is also evil. This is not about numbers. I don't know why Joel always wants to make this about numbers. Let's talk about the actual thing, the substance of it, murdering people. And Joel says, those were just prisoners of wars. Those children, those mothers, those grandmothers. Prisoners of wars. No one knows how many of them died. No one knows why they died. Probably starvation, right? Because Churchill cut off all the... Germans were starving, so prisoners of war starved first. Okay, now you got your history lesson from Professor Webbon. Those were just prisoners of war. Starving because it was war. No food available. Let's continue.
And so my point is, I'm not saying it's easy to find out the actual history, but I'm saying all these young men who red-pilled in 2020, it is fairly easy, though, for them to look at history and find out that we had 1,500 years of Christendom.
Right.
And then And then for the last 80 years, since World War II, we allegedly won,
Right.
and yet all of the West looks like it lost.
Yep.
That's what's going on. As young men are saying, so you're telling me we won the war, but since then we've murdered 70 million children in the womb just in the United States, and we're cutting off the genitals of little kids.
And we are.
Okay. So, yes, I agree. We live in troubled times. We are murdering babies. It is it's a miracle that we are still here. That God's wrath didn't already blow us off this planet. There's things that are going on are evil. No discussion there. I completely agree. But the reason the reason the state we're in now is that the Americans fought the Nazis and won World War II. That is the reason. That's just stated. I think it would be nice to get some explanation why that is the reason. I can name several reasons, and I don't think winning World War II was one of them. There are many spiritual reasons. There are reasons that started long before. But are you going to tell me, well, if the Nazis won, then our world would be better? So no killing of babies? Well, you want to read about who the Nazis killed? Well, not just babies, many other people as well. So, but is that what you're telling me? So, because our culture today is in ruins, in utter ruins. The reason for this is that the Americans won. So, if the Nazis had won, our world would be better now. I would like some substance to that.
Yes, and so we have to look all
at
the way
how
back.
happy and free we are.
We have to look all the way back. And so that's what some of these guys are saying, these young men are saying. Why aren't the nations now? If you're so concerned about what I'm posting, why aren't you fighting against my nation, my pastor, my city, my family? Why aren't you fighting against the utter destruction of Western values and culture?
Mm-hmm.
And we are. Doug Wilson, James White are not fighting against the destruction of the culture. Well, you don't know anything about me, I guess. But this is so ridiculous. We are fighting the destruction of our culture. The situation in Germany is similar to the one in America, maybe even worse. We are fighting abortion. We are fighting LGBTQ. We are fighting all the time. Everyone in Germany knows we are the church that is always fighting. Many don't like us because of that. But what is that a strange assertion? I don't know this man. He doesn't know me. But the assertion is, well, yeah, you're concerned about what I'm posting, but you're not fighting. Well, we are. We are. With everything we have. And we still look out for our sheep. We don't just fight out there. We also care for our sheep and make sure that they don't get off the rails. So I don't know why this should be something that is exclusive here. Okay. I think now we're getting really into this. I want to speed up a little bit because it's getting too long, but now it really starts. So let's get into this.
So then how did this meme get out to where all these guys have seen it in Doug Wilson's blog and with James White on the dividing line and all, this meme that, that is this sinister, insidious meme that's been shared in Reformed churches. It was texted to two people, one of them being another member in our church who he's friends with, texting it to a friend, the other being his former pastor who is a pastor in Germany.
Again, completely irrelevant with how many people it was shared. That's not our point.
And I'm going to name him because he's gone on several shows. Yep. I didn't want to do this, but he's gone on several different podcasts naming me. So his name is Tobias, and he's a pastor in Frankfurt, Germany, of a Reformed Baptist church. I've been friendly in the past.
Yeah.
I love him. I think he's a great man and a great pastor.
So I went on several shows. Well, Joel, several sounds a lot. Maybe you can substantiate that. I spoke on Iron Sharpens Iron Radio. And I had one podcast with Eschatology Matters. I'm not even sure if I mentioned Joel's name there, but maybe I did. So, but we're talking at 2 shows at the most. So maybe 2 shows, not several. And I'm sorry, you can't say, well, I love him and he's a great pastor, and then slander me. You know, we don't love with words, we love with deeds. So watching this, I'm sorry, Joel, I don't believe you love me. I don't believe you that you think I'm a great pastor. I believe it's more like hatred, because slandering, lying, falsely accusing, calling people stupid and out of their mind and so on, I don't think that's very loving. But let's continue.
But I think he botched it on this one. And so he's talking to this former member of his church, who's now a member of my church. And at some point in the conversation, this member in our church, he sends this meme. So what is the meme? It's a 1950s kind of setting, black and white sketch, animation, like Rockefeller, kind of style of a mother who's baking and her daughter who's sitting at the kitchen table. And the daughter says, "Mom, what's the Holocaust?" And the mom answers and says, "Oh, sweetheart, that's the one time in history that Jews had to do manual labor, and so they claimed that it killed them."
Yes, that is the meme. And isn't it funny? I don't know if any of you laughs about this. I'm concerned about you. So what is the meme about? The daughter asking the mother, what's the Holocaust? The mother answering, oh, that's the one time that Jews had to do manual labor. So they claimed it killed them. Well, so for one, you're saying all Jews are not doing honest work. They don't labor with their hands. Who knows what they are doing, but they don't do honest work. They are lazy. Well, somehow they must get some money, but it's not by honest work. It's not by manual labor. And then it's, of course, there's the denial of the Holocaust. Well, it was just manual labor, and they claimed it killed them. No, that never happened. No Jews were killed. No Jews were murdered in the concentration camps. No, they just had to do manual labor. So they are lying about it. They are saying they were murdered, but it was just manual labor. Isn't that funny? And Joel will make that point as well. Even if you believe that the Holocaust didn't happen, I believe it's stupid to not believe that. And again, it's not about numbers. I don't see any reason to doubt that the Holocaust didn't happen. I think everything that was brought forth, even by Stone Choir podcast and the 3 hours podcast, it's all stupid. It's not truthful. But see, that's not my main concern. My main concern is sin. If you deny the Holocaust for some neutral reason, okay, fine, you might be stupid, you might be wrong. But if you deny it because of your hatred of Jews, then we're talking about sin. And then I, as a pastor, then I get some alarms ringing, right? So, but let's say you take the view that the Holocaust never happened. So, it's right. The Jews, they just claimed they were murdered. Didn't happen. Okay, does this make this meme funny? So that would mean the meme itself, in the frame of the meme, it says, well, yes, the Jews were forced to do manual labor. They were enslaved. They were brought somewhere into some camps where they were enslaved and had to do manual labor. Is that so funny? I don't think so. I think the Bible also has to say something about that. This brother would even admit, and Joel even admits, that Jews did die in the concentration camps. Well, maybe they were not murdered, but there were problems with hygiene, and then there were some illnesses and so on. So yeah, people died in those camps. I don't know how many, but people died there. Okay, so within your framework, Jews were deported. The Nazis came to their houses, to their apartments, and by force got them out there. Again, including mothers, children, grandmothers, deporting them to somewhere where they had to do manual labor, and at least some of them died for whatever reason. That's funny, right? It's not. It is evil. It is something you need to repent of. It reveals what's going on in your heart. This is hateful. And I don't see how anyone can disagree. And I explained that to Joel in our Zoom meeting. And at least he pretended, at least he seemed to understand this. It seems he almost forgot about it. But let's continue.
So he shares this meme, and here's the deal with this former pastor, and the former pastor loses his mind.
You can judge for yourself. You now know what happened. Not just the meme, but everything else. Is it losing my mind if I think there is a danger? If I think something needs to be done? Well, let's continue.
He comes to me, and I end up having a 2-hour Zoom call with him and all of his elders and this member of my church.
Who's a member of your church now.
He's a member of my church now, but we're meeting with this other church and all of his former elders where he's no longer a member. And him, myself, and this member of our church now, we're 2 hours. The first hour, we're just quiet and just listening to all their many, many concerns. And then we are addressing their concerns. We spent the last hour telling it, well, here's our view on this, here's our view on that. Well, since that meeting, I thought that would be the end of it. I thought, that.
I told you what happened in that meeting. I don't know why Joel thought this was the end of it, because none of our concerns were addressed in that meeting. Our concerns were confirmed. So let's continue.
But since that meeting, Tobias has gone on several different people's podcasts, some of them well-known, and continuing to talk about the situation. Because I don't think Tobias will be satisfied unless this member of my church is excommunicated. Okay,
so again, I talked to several people, no, just 2. And I'm not even sure if I mentioned this in the Eschatology Matters podcast. Maybe I did, but 2. And again, he admits, that's just what he thinks. He thinks, I will not be satisfied unless this member has been excommunicated. Again, no. This is no longer just about this member. I don't want him to be excommunicated. My problem is not primarily with this member. I have concerns for this brother. But my problem is Joel and people like him, his friends, his tribe, as they call themselves. Because this brother was fine in my church. For 6 years, he was fine. And then he goes to Joel's church, and immediately things change. The influence of Joel and his church and the people around there, that's what brought this brother to the state he's now in. And I explained that to you, and you can discern for yourself if that's a good state to be in. But again, never said, I want this brother to get excommunicated, and then I'm fine. Even if this brother was excommunicated, again, that's not what I want. That's not what I asked Joel to do. Never. But even if he was excommunicated, that's not my problem. My problem is with Joel and with the likes of him, who really, well, maybe not enforce, maybe they do, I don't know, but at least not oppose these things, but somehow nourish them, somehow foster them. It's okay if you think like that and act like that in Joel's church. That is my concern. So again, just a false accusation. And remember, this is what this entire podcast is about. I am the crazy guy who wants this poor man to be excommunicated for sharing one meme privately with me. No, that's not true. And everything that Joel says about me is a lie, because it is based on this false premise that exists in Joel's head, but not in mine and not in my heart. Yeah, God can judge that. And I never said it. I never demanded that something like that should happen. So let's continue.
He wants this member of my church, him and his wife, who agrees with her husband, and their children, to be kicked out of our church.
Right.
And I never said a word about his wife and children. Not a word. Never subject of any communication. I know his wife. I love his wife. I love his children. Was never about them. Never a word. But Joel just states this. That's what I want. No, I don't. And I never said that.
And I just want to say publicly right now, just in case it wasn't clear, not going to happen. Not going to happen. You cannot say, dance, monkey, excommunicate. I'm sorry, I won't do that. And this is why the young men will continue to come to me, and no one will remember your name.
Do I really have to say something to that? I believe if you're a Christian, if you have the Holy Spirit, you cringe. I could start crying. This is so bad. This is so evil. This is so, can I say that? Satanic? So, first of all, let me just quickly go back so I don't get anything wrong here. Just a few seconds.
Not going to happen.
Yeah, right. So, again, I never said excommunicate. I never said dance monkey. And I didn't say anything that could be interpreted in that way. What I am seeing, what I am concerned about, is that Joel has some real issues with his self-esteem. If you react like that, if you make up in your minds these accusations, and then get angry, you see that? You see how he got angry about this? You cannot say dance monkey. You will not tell Joel what to do. Yeah, I didn't. Why is your wrath kindled? What's happening? What's going on here? I didn't do that. I would never do that. Why is he getting upset? Why is he getting angry? Because in his head, I attacked his authority, which I did not do. And then let's just listen to this one really, really concerning thing.
You cannot say, dance, monkey, excommunicate. I'm sorry, I won't do that. And this is why the young men will continue to come to me, and no one will remember your name.
So that's why I said in the beginning, I'm your host, Tobias Riemenschneider, but you don't have to remember my name. It will be forgotten soon. What can I even say to this? Let me say this. Let my name be forgotten. I do not care. This is not about my name. I'm not doing this video because of my name. I know what's coming. I know how I will be slandered by probably Joel and others. It is not about my name. And I find it very concerning that Joel seems to think it is about names. You know, I've heard people, good people, pastors, experienced ones, telling me for years, we are concerned about Joel. We believe he just wants to build a platform. We believe he wants to have a great name for himself. Well, that was just proven. There's more proof, by the way. But how can you even think like that? Even suggest that this is about a name that will be remembered. Can I, first of all, this is so far below the belt. This is, this is, I thought, well, this is like, if I was walking around Frankfurt and getting to the central station, which is the worst area in all of Frankfurt, and some guy came up to me and, your name will be forgotten. What? Yeah, and your mother is so fat. What are we talking here? I mean, this is so far below the belt. This isn't even funny. But again, I don't care. I don't care what will become of my name. I would rather listen and agree with a true great man of God. And he said, let my name be forgotten. Let me be trodden under the feet of all men, if Jesus may thereby be glorified. George Whitefield. And I agree 100%. And a pastor who thinks differently, I'm afraid of this pastor. He's a danger. He's not working as a servant of Christ. He's working for his own belly, for his own reputation, for his own name. A well-known theologian, and again, you would know his name. He talked to me about this podcast Joel did, and about this passage here. And he said, I'm quoting him, that is an astonishing and diabolic claim that presumes great things of himself and a divine insight into history. And again, the endless pontification and posturing of the man is nauseating. I'm sorry I have to say these things. I wish I wouldn't. I used to listen to some of Joel Webbon's stuff there, some podcasts and so on, maybe 1.5, 2 years ago. But this is dangerous. A pastor who thinks like that, who believes it's the most important thing that the young men come to me and your name will be forgotten, that is dangerous. Flee from such a pastor, really. Okay, I'm sorry, this is really upsetting. And again, not because it's about my name. Let my name be forgotten, I don't care. But I fear for those who are under the care of a shepherd who thinks it's about his name. All right, where am I? Well, let's see. Just give me a second. Let's continue a little bit. I'm not sure what else comes here, but I think there's maybe something more.
And I wish that wasn't the case. I really do. I wish it wasn't the case. I want better for you, brother. But I can't stop you from shooting yourself in the foot.
Well, projection, right? Pure projection. Okay, let's continue.
So here we are. So that was the meme. And how did it become so public in well-known pastors' blogs? Because he shared it privately with his former pastor, and that former pastor talked to me. But then he also went and talked to everyone else, to dozens of other pastors.
That's not true. Again, it's not true. I didn't talk to everyone else. I didn't talk to dozens of pastors. It's just a lie. And you know, Joel, if you bring forth these accusations, you are the accuser. You have to provide evidence. I don't have to provide evidence for me being innocent, right? Innocent until found guilty. You have to prove my guilt. And you can't, because it just didn't happen. I didn't talk to everyone else, to dozens of pastors about it. It's just a lie. Why are you lying? You know, if you can't fight this battle honestly, why fight it at all? Why not just shut up? Why do you have to do this? I mean, and I'm shooting myself in the foot? I don't know, man. And so, again, he wants to make this all about, well, there is this pastor you really can't trust. He will betray your trust. Again, I never mentioned the name of the brother. I never. This meme is not a personal information. This is not a confidential information that you would expect someone to not share with anyone. Right? So how could this be a betrayal of trust? If I talk to someone about a meme that was sent to me by someone I don't even name on an anonymous basis, how can this be a betrayal of trust? No personal information, no confidential information, no name given. But that's how Joel wants to frame me, right? Well, I'm betraying the trust of people. That's not true. And again, I did not talk to dozens of pastors. It's just a lie. Let's continue.
About his former church member who is now in another Reformed Baptist church, and his pastor is fully aware and dealing with the situation.
Except that he's not. Maybe he's aware, but he's not dealing with it in the right way.
All the elders in our church know the situation. Yep. We have talked to this individual, love this individual, asking him the right questions and walking him through it. In other words, it wasn't anybody else's business.
Right.
I understand if he shared it on X publicly and everybody saw it and it got picked up by Nick Fuentes and millions of people were seeing it, you know, and all these other Reformed Christians were coming out and saying, yeah, we love Hitler. And like, then you might need to address it in that public format. But that is not what happened. Right. And everybody who knows what I'm talking about until right now, us doing this episode, they probably, naturally, I would have assumed the same thing. They probably all assumed that this was a meme that was shared publicly. And that's the crazy and I believe tragic irony, is that everyone assumes that it's being publicly treated because it was publicly shared, and it wasn't. Right. It was texted privately to two people, one of those being your former pastor, where you were a member in good standing for almost a decade. And left in good standing. And you were there for almost a decade.
Exactly. This brother left in good standing. And then he goes to Joel's church. And he goes crazy. And he confesses, I'm an avowed anti-Semite. And that's not my business? Well, I am a pastor. I am a shepherd. If one of my former sheep goes off the rails I think this is my business. And again, if you're talking about doing this privately, I did. I talked to him for months. If you're talking about, going public with this, yes, that could have been a betrayal of trust. If this was a personal, confidential information, if I gave his name, and that's not what happened. So let's continue.
Yeah, and you had no idea. Like somebody could have asked him before all this happened and said, "Hey, I bet your former pastor, goes and talks to dozens of other pastors, and then those pastors put it in their blogs and in their podcasts to where thousands and tens of thousands of people are aware of the situation." You could have told this member in our church that before it all happened, he would have laughed at you and said, "My former pastor would never do that. Yeah. These guys would never do that. These are good, strong, godly men. They would never do that."
Okay, so see, we are the bad guys. This brother is completely innocent. He's completely fine. We are the bad guys. We really betrayed his trust. Especially I did, right? And he thought we were good and godly men. And now he has to learn we are not. We are the evil ones. We are the wicked ones. Well, again, judge for yourself. Continue.
And sadly, boy, would he have been wrong. He would have been wrong. So Tobias reached out to me recently and, still concerned because I'm not being hard enough.
Okay.
What?
You want to do ads?
Okay, we'll do in just one moment. But concerned because I'm not being hard enough on this individual in our church. And so I responded, again, trying to get peace and trying to bring some resolution and to assure him for his conscience. I understand as a pastor, he's not a member in my church, but if there are people that I pastored for several years, and even if they're not a member in my church any longer, I still, feel some sense of pastoral responsibility for them. So I get that. I'm sympathetic to that. So I'm trying to reassure him. And so I responded and said, "Tobias, I already had a virtual meeting for over 2 hours with you and all of your elders at your church. I sat there quietly for the first hour, and then I responded clearly to every single one of your concerns. And then I listed them out, including my answers. Number one."
Okay, so he didn't. He didn't respond to my concerns. He will now go on and list what he wrote to me, and those are not my concerns. But I wanted to see something. So, because I also got the messages here. So, did you catch that? He said twice that I reached out to him again because I thought that he wasn't going hard enough on this brother. Again, right? I want him to be excommunicated. Joel is not hard enough. Well, Joel is now reading what he wrote. But let me tell you what I wrote. So before Joel sent his answer, this is what I wrote. And tell me if this was about Joel not being hard enough on this brother. Here's what I said. Hi, brother. I am in contact with several well-known Reformed pastors and theologians from America, Canada, and Great Britain who, like me, are concerned about the path you and your friends are taking. It's not about not being hard enough on this brother. It's about the general path Joel and his friends, his tribe, are taking. And these men, these pastors I'm in contact with, these are not liberals, but proven, courageous men of God who believe in postmillennialism, theonomy, and Christian nations. Unfortunately, hardly of them to speak directly to you, and I am concerned that we are talking past each other. This is my concern. Maybe, hopefully, we are just talking past each other. So I hear from more and more brothers and sisters that they are sad and discouraged because of this dispute in the Reformed world. Therefore, I wanted to reach out to you and offer that we can talk either alone or together with Brian Survey and Eric Conn. I would like to explain where our concerns are and hear what your concerns are. I am a nobody in America, but I could share the results of our conversation with the concerned brothers. I appreciate you, brother, and would be happy if we could resolve this matter in a good way. Where did I say anything about, you're not being hard enough on this brother? It's not about this. Never had been. So again, the entire premise of this episode, the entire premise of all the lies and slander, it's not there. It doesn't exist. This is my concern. Something bigger is going on. And then again, after Joel's after what Joel's message he's reading here now, this is what I wrote. Brother, my concern is not whether you are racist, anti-Semite, etc., but rather that you and your friends, through your netta, so no enemies to the right, approach and elitist peer group thinking, do not confront and sometimes even encourage sinful behavior among your followers, such as racism or disrespect for their elders, and thereby bring conflict and division into the church. One recent example would be A.D. Robles' response to Jeff dropping out of the conference, Joel Webbon's conference. I think A.D. incited contempt for brothers and unbiblical extremism. Accordingly, there are several calls in the comment section to replace Jeff with Corey Mailer, Stone Choir, with those real racist. Because A.D. said that you have to get worse and defend men like Jeff Durbin, 10 times more now. This is immature and toying with sin. So this is what this is about. And I added, I wonder whether you could be led to repentance at all. And if so, by whom? Because it seems as though you immediately dismiss anyone who has a different opinion from you as a boomer or a traitor or whatnot. I wanted to talk to you to explain these things to you, but I accept that you don't want to talk. God bless. This is what this was about. Joel is claiming, no, because he was going hard enough on this brother. Again, not true. But let's continue.
Leave it alone. And whoever the modern state of Israel is, I'm not convinced that these are actual people with covenant or ethnic ties, for that matter, to Abraham, but they are a nation, right? They're still a nation. And so for me, my view is just in the great global post-millennial hope, all the nations are eventually going to be saved and flock to Mount Zion. So I believe that Israel will be saved in the same way I believe Canada will and Brazil will and China will and everybody else. So we both get to a future spiritual revival through different paths. Yours is actually the more common view with Reformed history and Puritan history. And my point in saying all of this is you and I are able to still be friends and serve together in the same local church. And neither of us have swastika tattoos. That's right. And neither of us are unhinged, but also neither of us find out about a man in our church sharing a Holocaust meme and then give him a 14-hour longhouse treatment, right, and then excommunicate him and his wife and kids.
Right.
So I'm glad that you can disagree on very minor things about the Jews and still be friends with Joel Webbon and be part of his church. I mean, that should be a given, right? But good to know. And then again, yeah, he just, someone just shared a meme and he given a 14-hour longhouse treatment and then excommunicate him and his wife and children. Again, who suggested that? Who did that? No one. So why does he keep harping on this? It's just not what happened. Let's continue.
Right.
That's insane.
Right.
Absolutely insane. So,
and let me just add, yes, that would be absolutely insane. And again, no one suggested that.
So I said, back to this, and we'll go to our first commercial break. But I said to Tobias, I already had a 2-hour virtual meeting with you and all of your elders. We sat quietly for the first hour, listened to your concerns, and then I responded to them. Number one, no, we absolutely do not hate all Jews. Number two, yes, we believe that Jews can be saved. And most, we believe, actually will be saved, not in a Romans 11 sense, speaking for myself, but through the end-time promises of the great post-millennial hope that eventually all the nations will flock to Mount Zion and be saved. So we do believe that Jews can be converted. 3, no, not all Jews are a part of some secret conspiracy or a global cabal. 4, yes, I do believe that Talmudic Judaism is not only pernicious, but uniquely pernicious. Yeah. I believe that it is worse than Islam. I believe it is worse than Buddhism, worse than Hinduism. I would say worse than atheism, but I think it'd be redundant because I think atheism and Talmudic Judaism in many ways are one and the same. I think secularism largely is a Jewish problem.
Yeah. Okay, so he doesn't say that Jews can't be saved and so on. Okay, fine. So I mean, it will happen someday, right? Far in the future. This doesn't exclude being an anti-Semite. You can be an anti-Semite. You can have something against the Jews, hate the Jews today, but still believe, I believe at some point something will happen, right? And they will convert and so on. So I don't think that is, that this doesn't address my concerns, and it doesn't convince me. But now what he said is, Judaism is uniquely pernicious. And atheism and Talmudic Judaism is basically the same. Secularism is a Jewish product. Well, okay, is secularism a Jewish product? Secularism, is a product of the French Revolution, part of the French Revolution. If you know that the French Revolution was done by Jews, okay, please provide the evidence. Would be new to me. What exactly have the Jews to do with the French Revolution? That is where secularism comes from, and then it is a uniquely pernicious religion. Well, on what basis are you saying that? Well, we will hear that. He will go into this a little bit more, but let's test if that really holds up to the truth. Let's just wind back for a second.
I believe that it is worse than Islam. I believe it is worse than Buddhism.
Oh yes, and he also thinks that atheism is basically the same. And how? In what way is Talmudic Judaism like atheism in a way that Islam or Buddhism isn't? I don't get that, but let's listen to him. Maybe he will give some explanation. So let's continue.
An atheism, but I think it'd be redundant because I think atheism and Talmudic Judaism in many ways are one and the same. I think secularism largely is a Jewish product. I really do. And so why do I think that Talmudic Judaism is more pernicious? It's like, well, they're all false religions. If you believe them, you're going to go to hell.
Right.
Yes and amen. But there is a difference in an ideology and a religion and the way that over centuries it shapes a culture and a people when one of the religions esteems Christ, denies his deity, and so it is heretical and absolutely a false religion, but it esteems Christ as a prophet and a relatively good man. Now. Islam. Whereas, and even Buddhism, for that matter, virtually every world religion except one. Whereas Talmudic Judaism does not esteem Christ as a prophet, but says that he should be boiling in human excrement, and that he is boiling in hell in human excrement. Those two worldviews, particularly in their view of the person and work of Christ, are going to have both have negative effects, but not to the same degree. One is going to deny Christ's deity, in which there is no gospel and no hope, and every man is dead in his sins. That's going to have horrible global negative effects. Islam, Buddhism. But another one says, not only are you still dead in your sins, and not only is Jesus not God, but Jesus is one of the most sinister human beings to ever walk the face of the planet. That one, I believe, is going to have far worse effects. Okay, so that was number.
So what Joel is saying is true. There is there are a few sentences in the Talmud about Jesus of Nazareth, boiling in excrements, because he did oppose the teachings of the elders. And some Jews say, well, this is not our Jesus. Well, I think it is. But how many Jews actually know this and believe this by heart? I mean, see, the Talmud has about 10,000 pages. It's much bigger than the Bible. Most Christians don't know their Bible very well, right? How do you think, how many of Jews really know what's in there and really believe that? And that's really what's shaping their worldview. And even if that's true, is that the only thing how you can measure how evil a religion is? I mean, maybe have a look at history. Have a look, because that's important for Joel as well, right? How many were murdered by socialism and communism and so on. Okay, how many were murdered by the Jews, by the Jewish religion, and how many were murdered by Islam? You want to tell me that alone, just this one passage in the Talmud, is enough to say that Talmudic Judaism is the most pernicious religion in the world, not even looking at what Islam is producing. How many Christians died at the hands of Muslims? Well, if you want to go there, okay, but I think this can be contested, okay?
So that was number 4. Number 5, yes, this ideology or religion, speaking of Talmudic Judaism, can and sometimes does have an effect on even those who do not practice Judaism. Because that was another question that he asked. He was like, well, so few people are Orthodox Jews and are actually practicing. So many people in Israel are completely secular. And I was like, well, brother, that's kind of my point.
No, it's not. I mean, maybe he thinks it's its point, but it's not. If he says, well, Talmudic Judaism, because it teaches that Jesus is boiling in excrements, Talmudic Judaism is the most pernicious religion in the world. And then I say, well, but most don't even believe that. Yeah, see, that's my point. No, that's not your point. That disproves your point. Most people, most Jews living in Israel are not Orthodox Jews. They don't believe the Talmud. They don't believe what it teaches about Jesus. They don't even know it's in there. So how can this be the same as saying, well, yeah, but if you know it, that's really pernicious. Yeah, but they don't. It's not the same. So I don't know. This is just a failure in logical thinking. Let's continue.
That you're separating these things as though there's no correlation between the two.
Right.
No. This is what Talmudic Judaism does.
Well, if Talmudic Judaism does that, then well, great. Then those people are freed from Talmudic Judaism, and they don't believe any longer what Talmudic Judaism teaches. Right? They don't believe any longer that Jesus is boiling in excrements. Okay, let's continue.
What it does is it gets you where Israel, our greatest ally, where's the largest gay pride parade in the entire world?
Yep.
Year after year? Israel.
Tel Aviv.
Israel.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not true. I've heard that so many times. So here's the ultimate proof how evil Israel is and the Jews are. They have the largest gay pride parade in the world year after year. Well, again, I don't know where you got your information from, but let me give you some of my information because I actually looked that up. And here's what I found. So where are the largest gay pride parades in the world? Let's look at Israel, at Tel Aviv. That was mentioned, right? Tel Aviv has about 250,000 people attending the pride parade. Ranking, the rank 48. 48 of the world. Not the largest one, the 48th largest one. The biggest one is in New York, 5 million people. Not 250,000, 5 million. Then Sao Paulo, 4 to 5 million. Sometimes you read Sao Paulo is now even bigger than New York. You see, that is how many times more than in Tel Aviv? And then the list continues. Madrid, Toronto, Buenos Aires, San Francisco, Cologne. Germany is also there, right? London, Chicago, Rome, Paris, Berlin, and so on and so forth. And on rank 48 comes Tel Aviv in Israel. Another lie. Or maybe you have to show me where your data comes from. But from everything I was able to find, that's not true. And see, that's exactly what they do all the time. Yeah, I want to prove to you how evil the Jews are, right? Most pernicious religion of all. See, they have the largest gay pride parade in the world year after year. No, they don't. Yeah, but they own the porn industry. Really? Again, where's the evidence of that? This is conspiratorial thinking. This is fueled by hatred of Jews, and this is dangerous. So, I think we have to really get going here. So, let me maybe jump to this. Maybe this is let's continue here.
He's fine.
Yep.
And sadly, his former pastor has lost his mind.
Yeah.
And so, a tragedy. But, was he asking serious questions? Yes.
Yeah.
Was he coming to some conclusions that I deny? Yes. Because for a moment there, he was like, man, I think Hitler probably was a Christian.
Right.
Well, again, this brother, he's fine. I'm the one who lost my mind. But then Joel admits that this brother thought that Hitler was a Christian. Hitler was indeed the last Christian prince. He was a good man. Joel just admitted to that. But I'm the one who lost my mind. Well, again, I'm not sure if you will follow this logic. And maybe let's continue a little bit more here.
As a Christian.
Right.
And I was like, I don't think so. And let me show you why. At the end of the day, though, here's the deal. The history of what happened 80 years ago is not necessary for the faith once and for all delivered to the saints.
That's right.
So we actually can disagree. And I know that sounds crazy to people. I know even as the words, most of you are probably like, man, Joel sounded really reasonable up until this point. But now it's like, so you're saying that somebody could believe that Hitler was a Christian? Yeah, in the same way that you could believe that Bonhoeffer was a Christian.
Okay, so the point he's making is you don't have to believe in any particular historic event to be saved, right? And he will talk about this later on. You have to believe in the birth and death and burial and resurrection of Christ and so on. Well, no one is saying this is what gets you saved. I never heard anyone claiming that believing in the Holocaust gets you saved. But if you are a Christian, we are called to walk in truth. We are called to not live by lies. We are called to not hate others. And again, those men are not just, they are not just interested in history. They are not all just became historians. There is an agenda behind this. They have their view of things. They have their agenda, their political agenda even. They believe the Jews are the real problem. They are behind everything. So we need to get rid of the Jews. So actually, let's go back to history and see how we can really back that up. That's why they go to the Holocaust and World War II, not because they're interested in history. And that is evil. And that even calls into question whether you are really born again. This is not what saves you. But living by lies and hatred, that might be very well be proof that you have not believed in the gospel and not be saved. I want to really bring this to a close, but there are a few more things I want to tell you. But please keep that in mind. Joel says that believing in certain historical events is not what gets you saved. We have to remember that because that will come up later. So let's quickly continue.
The point is, on that one, we didn't see eye to eye on some of the history. He's like, well, I still think he was better than you think, and I think it was less malice towards the Jews, and it was more like what Daryl Cooper said that a lot of people got upset about, that Hitler.
So this again about Hitler. Hey, this brother still thinks more highly of Hitler than Joel does. He doesn't think it was malicious towards the Jews. And you tell me that's not a problem? He's good, he's fine. So, let's see what else comes here.
Hitler, he bit off more than he could chew. They invaded Poland. And then, Churchill, who I don't think was the chief villain. I think that was too far. But he was certainly a warmonger. And he was certainly a known, by his own words, written, documented white supremacist. Churchill, he loved him some white folk. Yep. I'll say that. Churchill did not like black people. Churchill didn't really like Jews either. Until, in my opinion, I think they might have paid off his debt. And I think that's part of what got him back in the war. I don't know who paid off the debt, but the dude was bankrupt. Right. And all of a sudden, he's doing great.
You want to see subtle anti-Semitism? Here it is. Well, of course, it's just in my opinion, but I think the Jews paid off Churchill's debt. And that's why he entered the war. I can say that for sure, right? But it is strange. Right? He had so many debts, and it's probably the Jews, right? That is subtle anti-Semitism. It's maybe not that open, but that's the thinking. And it comes through here, but it's everywhere. The Jews, probably the Jews are behind this, right? Let's continue.
Financially, and that is curious. And so anyways, but he cut off all the trade. And so, Germany's starving, and they've invaded Poland now. And so they have all these camps and prisoners of war, and they can't feed their own people. But that's what Daryl Cooper said. That's not necessarily my opinion. Right. Again, see what I've already said. I need to do 10,000 hours, and then I'll give you an opinion. And I'm probably not going to do the 10,000 hours anytime soon. But this.
So that is something Joel says frequently. He does have an opinion. He doesn't believe. We will see that. But he admits, well, I really didn't put in the work that would be necessary. I'm not a historian, and I can't really do that. So, but again, he is undermining professional, historical science, right? Historical research, admitting that he has no clue. But he has his opinions, and he's undermining. You really want to tell me that every historian that ever worked on the Holocaust and the Nazi regime and World War II, every historian, no matter what time he lived in, no matter what nation he was from, country he was from, so they all lied, right? So that's Joel doesn't know what happened, but. He knows that something isn't right. So I would say, if you haven't done your homework, then you probably shouldn't go public with your opinions, because that is dangerous.
This young man in my church, he was leaning more towards that. He was saying, look, in war times, it's war measures.
Yep.
Even in America, we had concentration camps, and guess what? It wasn't just Japanese people.
Right.
There were a lot of people who, turns out, in the final analysis, were not Japanese. They were Chinese or they were Korean, and they went in the camp. You know why? I'm just going to be. I'm not trying to be mean, but because we thought they looked the same.
That's right.
Because white people thought that all Asians looked the same, and it's like, well, but why didn't you check their birth certificate? When you're at war,
right,
people can forge documents. That's the whole thing you're trying to guard against is secret agents and double agents and all these kinds of things. So you're in the middle of war, and so you have camps now, and there were
So again, the Jews in the concentration camps, especially in Poland, that's where most were transported to, were deported. So those Jews, they were just prisoners of war, because again, that's what we're talking about the Jews, no one else. They were just prisoners of war, starving because of Churchill. And of course you put everyone in those camps, right? Because, well, they could all be secret agents. They could all have forged their documents. So put them all in there. Well, let's go on.
Atrocities that we did. Now, not on the same level of what's done in Germany, but our people weren't starving. We were separated. We had the luxury of being separated by an ocean. That's part of the reason why economically we were so far ahead. All of Europe had to rebuild itself. Right. It was in ruins. And America just, went into the stratosphere economically. So there are some legitimate things to consider. Here's the deal. I still think that Hitler hated Jews.
Right.
So I think it was all those things. Plus, I think he actually hated Jews. That's my view. But this young man was like, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not persuaded. And so I said,
I don't know. I don't know if Hitler hated Jews. Just prisoners of war. I hope you see the danger here. And again, nothing was provided. No historical fact to back this up, right? It's just, my opinion, because, I'm not sure about all these things. Let me just jump ahead. Maybe just quickly. Joel also admits to being a blood and soil nationalist, not in the Hitler sense, but I don't know. Let's continue. We have to get to a close here. So, let's jump into this here.
That's what that was. So back to the meme. The thing I saw in the chat was, well, is it appropriate to share this as though it's funny? That was one of the things that was raised by this former pastor, and saying, well, you're still mocking. Okay, so you don't hate Jews, but by sharing this meme, and again, but he only shared it with 2 people privately, right. But still, sharing it at all, this was the argument of the former pastor, sharing it privately, even, you are mocking all the loved ones and descendants, Jewish descendants of those who died in the Holocaust. You're mocking the loss of their loved ones.
Exactly. That's what this is doing, making fun of evil. And it reveals something that is in your heart. So, let's continue a little bit more.
And so I asked this member of my church, again, doing my pastoral duty, I said, are you mocking them? And if so, could you tell your former pastor and say, you're right, I'm sorry, I won't do that again. And he told me, he said, Joel, I'm not mocking them. He said, Joel, you have to realize, I know I could be wrong. And I'm not publicly talking about this. Privately tweeted it. My pastor's the one who made it public.
Didn't tweet it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I privately texted it. Thank you. My pastor's the one who made it public. I'm not publicly talking about this, but so I am keeping it private because I understand that these are controversial things. But Joel, as of now, right now, the position that I'm holding is that I do believe that that there were Jews who were rounded up. I don't think it was 6 million, but I think that there were a lot of Jews that were rounded up. I don't think it was all malice, but many of them still died by starvation or by this or by that, and these other memes. And for any of them that were not Bolsheviks and were not communists and were not trying to destroy Germany without any legitimate cause, in other words, any who suffered innocently, especially the women and children, is what he said. He said, I feel awful.
Okay, so again, private sin isn't better. Just saying, well, oh yeah, but I don't talk about this publicly, just privately and with some friends. It's still sinful. So why is this even relevant? And then you say, well, Jews were rounded up and they starved and died for several reasons. So funny, right? Again, the meme, really funny, right? People were rounded up and died. Well, but he's sorry for all who don't belong there. But what we just said, Joel just said, well, you can't know who is a secret agent and who forges documents and so on. So you have to throw them all in there, right? Japanese and Chinese and in Germany all the Jews. And that's what this brother explicitly said, that the Jews all Jews deserve the concentration camps because they are parasites. That's what he said. And again, I think it's just prisoners of war. So why is that even such a big problem? And I was thinking, but I feel awful for the women and children. Well, in our Zoom meeting with Joel and this brother didn't say that. Joel was asking him this leading question. But you don't mean the women and children, do you? And he said, well, yeah, not the children. Well, if he has really changed his mind, and I believe it's just Joel's leading questions, but if he really changed his mind and think, well, I think there was really, really wicked things done to those people, well, then good, I'm happy. If you changed your mind, why don't you let me know? Why don't you tell me that you repented of some of the things you said? But okay, so I hope that is true. I'm not convinced, but let's continue.
Awful. And that was not what I was conveying and sharing the meme. He said, I wasn't trying to mock the loved ones of the victims. He said, what I'm doing in sharing the meme was, the purpose of the meme is I'm mocking the history, not the people, but I'm mocking the history because, Joel, right now, I could be wrong. I recognize I could be wrong. But as it stands right now, I'm mocking a historical narrative that I don't believe happened.
Right.
Well, mocking the historical narrative and mocking the people that died because of this historical narrative, you can't separate those two, right? You can say, oh yeah, well, I don't know, what can we mock? Well, I'm mocking Hiroshima. Funny. Well, people died. Yeah, no, I'm not mocking that. Well, you can't just separate those two. The historical event is the suffering and murder of people. Those are not two distinct things. That is the historical event you're mocking. And of course, you say, no, I don't know. Well, yeah, you do know. You never ask any questions, right? This brother, I quoted him. He said, I'm completely convinced that this didn't happen. Well, but you still admit people suffered and died. And you can't mock the narrative without mocking the narrative. That's what actually happened, right? So I want to share one more thing. So, in this conversation we had on the Zoom call, one of the brothers, one of his former friends, this brother's former friend, he asked him, could you get down on your knees and ask God for his blessing on this meme? And the brother said, yes. Again, you tell me if you think that is concerning. Let's jump to this, and we are almost done.
Or at least not anywhere near the way that the mainline history says it happened. So then I have to come pastorally to a conclusion. Every man in my church who has a suspicion that 9/11 was an inside job.
Right.
Excommunication.
Right.
Every man in my church who sides with the Union in the North on the Civil War.
Right.
Excommunicated.
Right.
Every man of what are we doing now? The last time I checked, we're saved by grace alone, through faith alone, in Christ alone.
Yep.
And not holding to a particular historic view on World War II alone.
Yep.
So that is the conclusion that my wicked thinking leads to. As a pastor, you have come to excommunicate everyone who believes 9/11 was an inside job, sides with the Union in the Civil War, or isn't so sure about the Holocaust. But that's not how you are saved, right? Faith alone, grace alone. Well, again, categorical error. That's not the same category. We're not talking about how you get saved. No one ever claimed you get saved by believing in 9/11 or siding with Abraham Lincoln or whatsoever. No one ever said that. This would be crazy. This would be stupid. And that's why no one is saying that. At least no one I'm aware of. At least I didn't say that. We are on a different level. We are not on the level in the category asking, well, how can one be saved? We are talking about sin. And actually, if you continue in sin, this is proof that you're probably not saved. But that's not what gets you saved. This is just the fruit, the bad fruit showing, right? And just, I have to add this. This movement is showing so much bad fruit, it is terrifying. But going back to this, so hatred of Jews. Even if you say, well, no, I don't hate Jews. Yeah, but actions speak louder than words. You said so many things, did so many things. So, hatred of Jews, that is a sin. And this sin could be an indicator that you're not saved. So why is Joel all the time minimizing that sin? Well, trying to make me the one who is really the wicked guy here, right? The one who lost his mind, the one who went crazy. Well, you should never minimize sin because it could actually keep you from entering the kingdom, right? It could be bad fruit, showing that you are actually not saved, that you don't have faith, that you don't have grace. So again, making an entire video, 2 hours video, slandering another pastor to protect this kind of thinking, this sinful thinking. I don't know why you want to do that. And here, this is the last thing I want to show you.
To have you. And so then, since then, I wish it wasn't this way, but I've had to, so now I'm standing in between him and these other pastors.
Yep.
And I'm saying, you know what, you don't need, telling these pastors, no, you're done talking to him. He's a member of my church. You're done.
Again, well, very heroic, right? He frames himself as the hero here. He never said that to us. He never said to us pastors, you're done. You're done talking to him. He never did. He never talked to us again after this meeting. Yeah, he refused to talk when I asked him for another discussion. So what he did, obviously, is he told this brother to not talk to us anymore because he wanted to talk to us. He called me and I said, well, I can't talk right now, but we can talk later this day. And he never called. I believe Joel told him, don't talk to them. And talking about pastoral abuse, well, telling someone, don't even talk to them anymore. Don't do that. Well, why not? Well, let's listen. He gives the reason. So let's listen to this. But again, this didn't happen. Joel did not tell us, you're done.
You're done. No more abusing him.
Yep.
No more disparaging him. No more exasperating him. You can talk to me if you want, and I'm willing to talk if there's something else that we missed.
Right.
But I've already given you these answers. I already did this Zoom call. I think by God's grace, you need to ask that God would save you from boomer brain,
right?
Because you got a real bad case.
So, as a pastor, being concerned about this brother is abusive, right? He used some other words, forgot them now, but we were abusing this man. Do you think that is abusive? I told you what this man said, what this brother said. And it's abusive to want to help him, to not continue this path? Well, I don't know. And then we need to get saved by God's grace from boomer brain because we have a bad case here. Well, I know that's what Joel and others are doing all the time. You don't agree with them? You oppose them? How dare you? Well, you are gay, you are a traitor, you are a boomer. Well, I'm not a boomer, but I got a boomer brain. Well, and by God's grace, I need to be saved from that. By God's grace, I have to understand that it's completely fine to believe that Hitler was a Christian prince, to believe that the Jews were just prisoners of war. Nothing was really done to them that was somehow evil, right? By God's grace, I have to understand that the Jews are behind everything. By God's grace, I need to be an avowed anti-Semite. Well, probably that's not what Joel would not agree, right? But that's what this is all about. Those are the things we are talking about. And I need to be saved from that. Did you see, I told you, remember what he said. We are not saved by believing in the Holocaust or so. Right. But we need to get saved from believing the Holocaust. So who is making this an issue of salvation? Or at least clear thinking? An end of sin, an end of abusing others. Well, Joel, he says, you need to get saved by God's grace from boomer brain. That is strange. One more thing, I missed that in the video, but he said at one point, maybe it's still coming, I don't know, but I want to bring it to a close here. He said that we have been lied to by everyone all the time. So that's what you have to understand. Because they lied to us during COVID, and yes, they did. But because they did that, they lied to us all the time. Everything is a lie. And every person you trusted lied to you. And that's what you have to understand. This will save you from boomer brain. If you finally understand that everything is a lie, the Holocaust is a lie, everything we know about the Nazis is a lie, everything we thought we knew about the Jews is a lie, right? Well, who is now making this an issue of salvation, a matter of salvation? Well, so I think I want to stop here. Again, I think I missed one or two things, but we got long enough. Let me bring this to a close. I am very concerned about this brother, yes, because he was one of my sheep. But I'm concerned for many more sheep. I'm concerned that men like Joel Webbon and others are deceiving people. And they are telling them, well, your sinful thoughts, they're actually fine. And again, this is not about believing every aspect of history. That's not what it is about. It's about real hatred. It's about sin. And, if you say, well, I'm the good pastor, come to me. All the young men, continue to come to me because I will be a good pastor to you. All those other pastors, they just abuse you. Come to me because my name will be remembered and theirs will be forgotten. Well, I fear for those men because being a good pastor is not accepting your sin, but trying to work with you. Not just excommunicating you again, but helping you to actually see your sin and repent of it and become more Christ-like. And those men, unfortunately, they are leading people astray. And I'm very concerned about what's happening there. Let me close by quoting again from Proverbs 27, verse 6. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, profuse are the kisses of an enemy. If your pastor is fine with your sins, maybe asks you some leading questions, right? So you know the right answer to give, and then goes on a podcast slandering a pastor, lying about a pastor, not even on your continent. If you think, well, that's a good pastor. Finally, I found someone who really protects me. And well, these might be the kisses of the enemy. A faithful pastor, he might wound you. He might confront your sin, but he really means well. He is faithful. What can I say? I'm really sorry I had to make this podcast. Thank you for listening, and I very much hope that we can talk about more encouraging things in the future. God bless.